All right, everyone. Well, hello. My name is Taylor Nagel. I use she, her pronouns. I am the events coordinator for the Career Success team at UCSC. Alumni engagement and career success are excited to bring you today's event, Launching Your Job Search in 2021. Today, Eric Morse, a UCSC alum and a highly skilled career coach, will be diving deep into some questions that you may have about the job search process this year. Now, before we meet Eric, I want to provide some housekeeping items. So please note, we will be recording this program and will make it available on the Career Success YouTube channel. A survey will also populate once this program is complete. So we ask you to take the time to respond, as that helps us improve future events. Now, please feel free to submit questions via the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and you can submit those at any time. And we will take some time to answer those questions at the end of the program after Eric is done speaking. All right, so we hope you're excited. I'm super excited. And now I'm going to pass it over and introduce Eric.
Thank you, Taylor. How's everybody doing today? Ready to learn some stuff? Let's do it. All right.
Thanks, Eric. You can get started.
Everybody see okay?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Great. Thank you. Well, thanks for joining today. I'm really humbled to be here to be able to give back to UCSC. Such a wonderful time there. And if anybody's still there, and I'm very jealous of probably the beautiful day you're having right now. So jumping in, thank you again. Launching your job search in 2021. So today we're going to talk about, obviously, what we're going to learn about. Some key takeaways, hopefully, in your search, and maybe with what you're struggling with right now, you might be able to overcome a few things. Some strategies that you can immediately implement in your search, maybe some tips, and also some things to think about. Also, just some helpful tips to kind of push you forward, and maybe just a mindset that might also you'll be able to integrate. So why should you listen to me? That's a good question. A little bit of background on me. I've had multiple careers. I used to be a Silicon Valley recruiter, also worked for Google for a number of years. I absolutely love coaching and also resumes. Even before I was a recruiter, I instinctively always loved building resumes. People came to me for advice on resumes. So I've had a long history of working with them and actually seeing the progression over the years of how resumes have evolved. I have actually a really strong background in sales as well, and also technical sales. I originally went to UCSC and got a science degree. And so I look at this process in sort of a scientific lens. And a lot of my clients, people I work with, see a lot of comfort in that. Also, I'm certified in DISC, if you know what DISC behavioral assessment is. It's very helpful if you're struggling with where your behavior will fit in the workplace, how it interacts with other people. These are really good assessments too. Also, Kresge College alum. Anybody else is there? Again, really jealous. I love the kitchens, so that was always good fun. A little bit of my background too. Again, I've made successful career transitions, and a lot of the techniques and tips and I'm going to show you today are actually a lot of things that I learned on myself, and a lot of things I still coach with people. I had a technical recruiting background, as I mentioned, also in technical sales, and I just love being a coach and an entrepreneur. I've helped hundreds of people right out of college all the way up into their 60s. One thing I also want to talk about is I know that you're really struggling right now if you're at this, and maybe you've been searching for a while or you just don't know really what to do. Just try to enjoy the process as much as you can and learn as much as you can about this right now. A lot of the skills and everything that you're doing, just being here right now, you're going to be able to carry this information for wherever you go. A lot of my clients that come to me and a lot I work with understand that they don't have the skill of hunting for a job. It's not something you're instinctively taught. You're very good at what you do, but looking for a job is a whole nother skill set. So really what I want to kind of take home is a little bit just be where you're at right now. Um, there's always going to be something you're going to be learning, and this is a little bit of a process. So try to see a little bit of positivity in it. But just don't take my word for it. I've worked with a lot of new grads. You don't have to read through all this. I know it, but I just wanted to show this was one new grad. He had been sending out applications forever, and he thought everything was bleak. We worked together. There was a lot of competition, and we worked, and he got a job. So I just want to share that this one as well as another one right here with Amelia. I worked with, again, right out of college, didn't have many connections, didn't know what to do, and again, same mindset. We were able to turn that around and actually find some really good opportunities. So the opportunities are out there. It takes a little bit of mindset, a little bit of practice, and a little bit of information too to get to that next step. Now that that's being said, let's do a little quick rundown on 2021. A lot has obviously changed in 2020 to 2021. And a little bit of information, that help with the mindset and the search that you're going to have, just how to approach it with this. I think you're going to actually come away a lot stronger. So let's dive in a little bit. Everybody says to work harder, and I know that sounds really cliche that you have to work hard, but there's always a good balance in that. I do believe in hard work. People say work smarter, but there is a lot about what you put in and what you get out. One thing that's really happening is, I don't know if this resonates with anybody. I get these calls every single day that I'm not getting any response. I keep sending out my application. I've sent in hundreds and hundreds of applications. One person I just got the phone with yesterday sent in 500 applications in 2 months, and not one person called them back. And maybe you're in a similar situation right now, but you're kind of wondering what's going on. And from my experience of sitting behind the scenes, reviewing resumes, really kind of building out also hiring practices and applicant tracking systems, there's a couple things going on right now that hopefully will, again, help you with the mindset going into this. One thing, obviously, with the COVID layoffs, a lot of companies scaled back their hiring personnel. And when this happens, there's not as many people reviewing resumes. Probably the same amount of jobs might be open, but there's less people reviewing them. So less people reviewing them, you might be a great candidate. You might be the perfect candidate, but there's just not as many people reviewing them. The other thing is the problem with ATSs themselves. So applicant tracking systems, which we'll talk about in a moment, is that there's a lot of zombie jobs out there. I call them zombie jobs, that sometimes they're just continually being applied in the system. And it might just be on an automated system. It's a little bit of a marketing ploy too for companies. So you may see the same job opening up over and over again, and you're just like, hey, I just applied to this. What's going on? So keeping these things in mind, that the job, when you're applying online, a lot of the times it can be very frustrating. And obviously, if we have a constrained supply of people looking at them, and the third piece of it, obviously, there's more people working from home. It's easier now for people to apply for jobs than before. Most of the time when people are at work, there was only a few amount of hours that you can actually apply, unless you were, obviously working from home all the time. More people working from home, more applications, less people able to review them. And you've got sort of this scenario now where everybody's in. So I don't have a quick fix for this. All I can say is, this is out there, trying to get frustrated, and there's things we can do to circumvent this sort of applicant tracking system sort of nightmare right now. So hope that kind of answers maybe some questions about applications and ATSs. The next thing that's going on right now is that I'm finding, working with a lot of my clients, is that it's actually taking a little bit longer to get hired. I mean, pre-COVID, I would see things like a month to be getting hired. Now it's like 2 to 4 months, and a little bit longer now. Again, constrained supply, less people reviewing things. There's a little bit of this uncertainty too about how we're going to actually fill people, where they're going to be, distributed workplaces. So the market's still kind of figuring out what's appropriate. So just keep that in mind. Again, it's going to take a little bit longer than normal to find a job. And again, I work with people one-on-one, and this is about average 2 to 4 months. So it can happen quicker, but it depends on, again, if you're using all the channels that I'm going to talk about later in your strategy. So again, it's important to keep this in mind with mindset. and what's the goal you want to achieve. And if you're just getting frustrated without the actual goal and kind of understanding these parameters and giving yourself a little bit of a break too about this process, it's a really challenging time to actually get hired. So the fact that, again, you're trying to do something new, you're going to these webinars, maybe you're learning as much as you can, you're getting sharper at this. And the next time you're going to be really good at applying, and maybe you're actually, you're going to be the best candidate out there. So, okay. Applicant tracking systems. Let's talk about that for a bit, because again, it seems to be a regular question, and I could probably have an entire webinar just on applicant tracking systems. So yes, there's a futuristic robot right here. Most people think that there are highly sophisticated AI machines out there that are just scanning resumes. There are some, but most companies, I will tell you, just my experience and also just surveying the industry, is that they're actually not as sophisticated as you think. It's actually quite basic with the language processing and able to match keywords. So are there a lot of companies that use scanners? Yes, there are. Should you be afraid of them? No, I don't think you should. And I don't think that's the number one reason why your resume is getting automatically rejected. Applicant tracking systems, if they get too many, they can have an auto bulk reject. So you might be the best candidate, but there's so many people applying, you just get rejected, and automatically people think a knee-jerk reaction that, oh, it's a scanner that rejected me. If you're worried about this at all, I know that UCSC has a free service for everybody. I think it's through JobScan, which is really nice, and maybe Taylor or Carl will talk about that later. But the applicant tracking systems, again, are not as sophisticated as you think. Some of the top tier tech companies in the Bay Area are not even using this scanning technology because they know it's inherently flawed. It's not a perfect system. Whoever sets up the language processing and who's actually picking the keywords out, that really determines a lot. So you don't really want to lose candidates just because they didn't put the right keywords in. Sometimes people say things a little bit different on their resumes. So long story short, everybody looks at applicant tracking systems and goes, yes, they seem so sophisticated. They're like really taking over the industry. But I want you as a job seeker, again, somebody who used to work with a lot of them. There's Greenhouse, there's Talio, there's a bunch of big ones out there. Yes, they can put this in there, and there usually sometimes is like a filter in there that shows, are you in the top like 20%, top 10% of match? There's a lot of nuance within these systems too, if you've ever worked with them. They're not super easy to use. A lot of times there's just a ton of people sitting behind the screens who are just scanning through resumes and chugging through resumes all day. There's also crews that are sitting in these internal databases as well, who are looking for these candidates maybe that slip through the system. So there's a lot going on. It's not an easy fix with applicant tracking systems. And yes, you can play a little bit of the keyword game, which I do suggest you do when looking at your resume and trying to match it towards the job description. But should you be spending like hours agonizing over this? Unequivocally, no, you shouldn't. There's other avenues, which I'll talk about in a moment, that I feel like you should be spending more time in. Again, the ATS system is inherently a little bit flawed, and online applications are really challenging too. So yeah, so this goes to show everybody thinks they're super sophisticated AI from the future, and you got a little wind-up toy at the end of the day. Some of them are great. I've used a bunch of them, and they really facilitate any hiring. I don't think there's any sales professionals out there, but if you use anything like Salesforce or any sort of those CRM tools, essentially an applicant tracking system is like a CRM for candidates. You can track through everything from emails, correspondence, all the way to like offer packages and all the details in there. So that's just a quick little insight into them. We got more questions on ATSs. We can definitely chat later, but I really don't like to spend too much time on them because there's more important things you should be doing in your search. All right, so this is the one thing I want to know. This is the level playing field right now in 2021. Used to be new grads, fresh grads, 1 year, 2 years out of school. Like I've never really had to look for a job before. And now I'm getting actually all ages, everything from fresh new grads to people in their 60s saying, I've never had to look for a job before. So hopefully this again helps out with mindset that, it's kind of a level playing field right now as far as like what the market's doing and who's having to look. And I work with a lot of executives too, and they're having to look for jobs. So it's a little bit of a shaken up market right now as far as like where people are landing and what kind of is going on in the future. So most people, yeah, everybody's looking for one thing, again, at the end of the day, I feel is something that's meaningful. And everybody's also coming to the conclusion that, you're very good at what you do. And I think I said that you're probably really good at what you do, but looking for a job is not a skill that everybody's trained in doing, nor that some people don't want to do it. It's taxing. Everybody feels exhausted whenever I say them. Everybody, I think what is the old saying? It's a full-time job just to look for a job. So again, keep it in mind, again, if you're fresh out of school, maybe 1 year, 2 years, and you're just sort of mid-career, everybody's having to struggle with this right now. One other challenge, again, for people who are just graduating is because of this sort of distributed work environment, there's less learning on the job. There's less sort of that collegiate feel of the office space right now. I'm not going to say that's going forever, but it is a little bit of challenge if you want to kind of learn something on the job. It's a little bit, the bar has been raised a little bit. I know that there's other opportunities out there, that there's still people working in the field and maybe in offices, but it's less like it was a year ago. So it's just a little bit different of a scenario, but it's not all doom and gloom. It's really not all doom and gloom. And what I want to say is there's really unlimited information right now. And you have a lot at your fingertips. I know this sounds kind of cliche and, it's the internet and you got tons of information, but you really do. And if you're at home right now and you're working from home, you've got a little bit of time, and maybe you're thinking about something else. You got a little bit of time to actually kind of utilize that. And there's some really interesting things you can do. And again, we're going to chat about kind of different strategies and different work you could be rolling into. So online personal branding. So I know that, again, this is another cliche topic, but I really feel that this is something that could really change everything, the way that you look at maybe your current career or your future career. And I'm going to give some specific examples and how you can do this, because most people think like, oh, well, that's just something that's out of my wheelhouse. Only like professionals, and you see like Instagram and they've got like nice brand, and don't really overcomplicate it. At the end of the day, personal branding can go in many different directions, and there's a lot of different ways you can do it, whatever kind of speaks to you. We'll be talking a lot more about this in the collateral section of my later, and some specific examples and things that I've seen really, really kind of work. But you may think to yourself, I have no experience. I don't know what to do. I'm a software engineer, or I'm economics, or I'm in sales. Like, no one will hire me. Well, I think you do have the experience, and you just need to create it, write it, film it, just some way that you feel that you can show your expertise. Like, I can't reiterate that enough, but you really have so much at your fingertips now, and so easy to do it, that it's amazing what you can show. And I've seen people really change their careers around and actually help facilitate that as well. Because I wanted to get in the mindset, really working with people, that jobs now and in the future are really partnerships. They're really partnerships. It's less of it's less of, boss and servant. It's more of a partnership, because you have some really good skills, and you have something you can do to solve a problem, to solve some challenge for a company or a partner or whatever it is. That you got to kind of look at this as a partnership, and kind of look at it as like your independent sort of company almost. And there is a little bit of marketing involved. I mean, online personal branding is a little bit of marketing. Not everybody's good at it, but just any little bit helps. So again, jobs are like partnerships. Think about anybody's problem, challenge, and pain, what you can solve for them, and how you can show it. So that's all great. Everybody say, okay, that's wonderful. That's a lot of lip service, but like, where do I begin? So whether you're in an internship or searching for an internship, or your first job, or maybe you're trying to transition to another career, or maybe you have an established career, this is really the process that I recommend and work one-on-one with people on, and see amazing results. And what it really comes down to is, again, sticking to some sort of process, some sort of method, some sort of system for yourself that you can work and see results come in. And I know it's really easy just to like knee-jerk reaction and go to the internet and start typing things in and searching for jobs and start applying. But if you don't really have a strategy in place and you're just sort of kind of floating in the wind, it's going to feel like that. And the results are going to come sparse. And at the end of the day, it's not just any job we're trying to get for you. Is it a meaningful job? Is it something that you feel really good about, that you see some longevity in? And I know there's probably different stresses for everybody going on right now. I just need a job. I just need to get some money. And like, yes, we can solve that. And those are absolutely things we can do. But it really comes down to a strategy and really like taking a step back and understanding that if the little bit that you put in this sort of process and setting this up for yourself, you're really going to get some really good results at the end of the day. So again, direction and search, starting really core of like, okay, what problems can I solve? Really, what can I solve for people? Like, what companies can I solve those problems at? Like, think of some parameters for yourself of what, like, again, if it's money, like, okay, well, what companies can pay me? Doing a little bit of research on some companies and figuring out who it is. And I have some examples to show you in a moment how to actually do that. Where is the growth in this industry? What are some things I'm really interested in? Start making a list of companies that you really like. Where can my skills fit in? And if you don't know where your skills can fit in, I've actually written, I'll show you a slide in a second about how to reverse engineer that and how to implement that right now. If you're saying, making this, I'm like a philosophy major, like how can I get a job at a tech company? Well, might be some ways you can do that too. And I'll show you. In this sort of search phase, like think of some stretch companies too. Like most people go, oh man, that company would never hire me. Like that would never happen. Like, I don't know how many times I've heard that when I've worked with people and they're like, actually, they want to interview me now. I was just working with somebody who he wanted to work for the local county here. And there was like 500 applicants. And he's like, oh, there's just no way. There's just no way that they would hire me. I'm like, well, you know what? Like, why don't we work together and put the application in and figure everything out and do some interviewing? Boom, lo and behold, he got in one of 500 applicants. He got picked. So I think they picked like 10 people to kind of move through. But all I'm saying is don't just immediately build up stories in your head about why places can't pick you and why this can't happen, because that's a little bit of our fight or flight part of our brain that's kind of telling us like these things can't happen, just be safe, don't do anything. And, push yourself outside of your comfort zone a little bit. And we'll talk about that and how to actually initiate that in a second. So you probably, again, back to the thing, how can I actually, if I'm a philosophy major or a psychology major or something, and I want to do something at a company that would never hire me, one tool I actually use in my own personal search, and I help a lot of my clients out, is actually how to use job search engines. So if anybody knows about Boolean search and Boolean search operators, it goes in a little bit more detail into my article, my blog post here, but you could take your skills. And if this is making sense to anybody, we can talk about it later. You can take specific skills or experience or anything you have, take the keyword and use a Boolean operator, such as like and, or I think not is another one, but usually use and. So take two of your keywords, like your own skills that you have, and then put them inside of either like Indeed or LinkedIn and just see what comes up. Most times people are searching for the titles too much or things like that. Use your own keywords of your experience of what you can offer, put that into something like a LinkedIn search or an Indeed search, and then see what kind of jobs and what kind of companies come up. You'd be really surprised like what you can offer and there's hiring there. Don't just be limited to those job search engines. There's a bunch of them. So take a sample size and try different keywords and see what comes up. Again, using little keywords, you can really reverse engineer the search, and maybe there's a title that you never thought about and that comes up, or a company you never thought about. So that's one way that you can, again, if you have some sort of unique background and you don't know where you fit in, you can actually reverse engineer that and see what companies come up. It's a really good exercise. It might give you a little bit of peace of mind, and also just some it's more ammunition to that search, and again, more direction. And then you start to kind of figure out various industries and maybe different professionals that might be able to help you. Also, you could take that and go into a place like LinkedIn, not just on jobs, but potentially look at different profiles of people who maybe have those keywords and maybe they did something similar in a different career track. And you go, wow, you have a very similar background to me and you made this transition. Send a message. Send a message and say, hey, how did you make this transition? This is really interesting. You have a similar background as me. I never thought anybody in a million years would be able to make that kind of leap. That's so inspiring. Would you have like 5 minutes just to like spend and chat with me? So thinking about your search just a little bit different, giving some direction and giving some energy to it is, again, it's going to give you more confidence in what you have and what you can offer. Because a lot of what I see right now is it's a mismatch kind of thing going on. And we really kind of need to direct the search. Again, what do you have to offer? Where can we fit that in? What can we really kind of curate for you? So other ideas. So there's a lot out there as far as companies and different things you can look for. And I've done a lot of research. I have a scientific background. I love research, piling through data and information and things. And actually wrote another blog post on this as well, of different areas that you can look for particular jobs. On there's a whole list of them, of databases and different things that you can kind of research and maybe figure out where you fit in. Maybe they have some sort of offering or just some kind of need for you. Maybe you'll find some names of some people that you can reach out to and talk to and kind of see their background. So again, doing this research, setting the kind of the groundwork for yourself is really important, and funneling that search rather than just applying online and just sending resumes out. It just setting a little bit in place for yourself doing this is going to make you feel so much better, because there's a wide world of opportunity out there. I'm not just saying that. There is a wide world of opportunity out there. There's a ton of need for what you do. You just got to direct a little bit and put the pieces together. So next is Collateral. And I think I talked a little bit about personal branding and what's going on with that. So the typical collateral that people think about is like your resume, your cover letter, and your LinkedIn. However, we can go a little bit further than that. I mean, we can start creating things as part of your collateral, part of your brand, part of what you have. I mean, think white papers, think writings and videos, maybe little posts that you can do. I want to give a personal story. One of my career transitions, I really thought I wanted to go in to do like something with hospitality. I don't know. I was really interested in like hotels and management in there and kind of how they operate. So I sat down and wrote some random white paper on like mobile technology and how it's going to influence like the hospitality industry. And I don't know, I did a bunch of research on it and wrote just like a one-page little white paper, published it. I don't know where I put it, on maybe LinkedIn or something. And I cited a bunch of sources, of course. And then I just started reaching out to different hospitality professionals, attaching my white paper there, having conversations, and really got pretty far in the process. And realized it wasn't the industry for me, and it wasn't really for me. But just going to say, like, a little bit of creation can go a long way, and you can get a lot of people really interested in you and sort of your style and seeing where that kind of matches. Another person I worked with, sales background, and he had like more of a traditional sales background. He was really interested in like software sales and super interested in like software sales specifically with like AI and ML and like machine learning and artificial intelligence and wherever that was going, and specifically in like biotech and healthcare. No experience whatsoever in it. So I coached, and we found a bunch of research he did. He started researching it and started getting really into the space, going to meetups. I mean, it's kind of harder to do right now, of course, but going to more Zooms, talking to people, reaching out to people, really understanding the space. And now he's having people reach out to him, and he's actually like churning down opportunities because he's actually becoming more of an expert in the field. He knows a lot about it. So you can kind of really create a little bit more for yourself. Maybe that's not you. Maybe you're not like a reader or anything like that, or writer, and that's fine. But I wanted to share something a little bit that was a little bit different that I think maybe it will resonate with people, maybe it won't. So this was one of my clients, and he recorded a video of himself, and he's like, I don't have any collateral, I don't have any of this stuff. He recorded a video of himself just talking about super simple. I think he had like just a few slides kind of going on the background about himself, what he can offer. And he sent this out to actually a few of his target employers. And he was making a huge transition too. He was going from a middle of the country down. He needed to move. He needed to get out of where he was at. And he just sent this out to a bunch of employers. Lo and behold, they like the one that loved it. They loved it. You know, they wanted to bring him in. Like, wow, this is really neat. This is really different. Like, we love this. Like, we want to chat with you. Like, this is a really different style. We haven't seen this before. So, and he got the job, made the transition, you know, moved several states, and now he's really enjoying where he's at. So, are you going to do this? Maybe not. Maybe. Do I advise it? I really can't. All I could say is that you've got to do something a little bit different, and you've got to try different things and what kind of works best for you. I mean, we're slugs, and so I think we're a little bit different by by the nature of everything. So why not? Why not live it and enjoy that and be who you are? So hopefully that gives a little bit of just some different ways that you can build collateral. Just whatever comes easiest. Whatever I say whatever goes easiest for you. Don't overthink it. You know, do what feels like natural and what feels like, hey, this is me, and start creating from there. Because it's, again, going back to like, you know, information era, it's pretty powerful what you can do. Okay, that's great. So we've directed the search. We kind of found out some companies, some places. We started building a little bit of collateral on ourselves. What do I do next? So strategy and implementation is huge. And this is where most people really kind of struggle. And I spend a lot of time working with people. I love this piece because it's very process driven, and what you put in is what you get out. So most people think like, most people don't know the kind of the breakdown of how people get hired. And maybe you do, maybe you don't, but really only 10 to 20% of people that apply through like an online application usually get hired. Similarly, like random hiring professional contacting you for like LinkedIn or Recruiter or something, that's another like 10 to 20% success rate. Again, these are averages, could be higher, could be lower, but this is what the data suggests. And also for me, anecdotally, work behind the scenes, this is what we see. Really, the bulk of it is in referrals. 60 to 80% of jobs, sometimes even higher at smaller companies, you know, get filled through referrals. So really working in that space, generating referrals is going to be huge. And how you do that is there's a lot of in that process, and I'll talk about that in a second. But generating referrals is going to where I would strongly suggest you spend a ton of your time, especially, you know, in 2021. Like, that's what you want to be doing. Because again, there's so much noise in the applicant tracking system right now that it's like, yeah, you're working a lot of different factors, and it's a low success rate, and it takes a long time to do it versus like things you could be doing, which is a little bit more, you know, statistically, you're going to have better odds of success. It's a better, I think I would suggest you spend a little bit more time in that. I know like networking referrals, it's very like cliche and like, oh my goodness, what are you going to tell me is a little bit different. But again, it comes down to your strategy, and I'll discuss that in a second too. So again, breakdown, 10 to 20% are filled through applicant tracking systems. And I don't want to disregard applicant tracking systems. I still think you should apply at the end of the day, but if you've exhausted all their sources. So 10 to 20% come through like some random reach out, either through like a hiring professional, you know, LinkedIn or something. And then like 60, 80% of jobs are filled through referrals. So a strategy. So this is something I work with my clients on. And it's like a super simple, like search matrix, I call it. And we just go through everything of your offline contacts. And I sit down with my clients and we go through who you know. And we're going to be talking about those people because I think it's important to know how you approach them. There's a lot in how you approach people, because if you put a lot of pressure on some people about searching for a job, especially now, things are kind of a little bit dicey with the economy and, you know, where things are going. People People don't, they're, they want to help, but some people, again, are not good at this piece. So you kind of have to facilitate it. And learning how to ask those questions and how to actually engage people is an art all on its own. So going through your, what I call offline contacts, these are people in your phone. These are people like who you talk to on a regular basis, people you feel comfortable with. You've got to engage them correctly. And it's really important to know how to engage them and making sure you're not putting the pressure on them that, oh, I got to this person's got to find me a job and they have to do that. And a common misconception too in your search is most people think that I can only get referrals for jobs, from people that work at a specific company. For example, let's say somebody that works at Apple and you've been pressing on them like, hey, can I get a job at Apple? Can I get a job at Apple? Most people think that that's what like networking and referral generation is, when actually you can use anybody within your network to potentially generate leads for you at Apple. So I want you to keep, an abundance mentality when it comes to the search and how you're going to kind of approach people. Other things to kind of organize, obviously, is like a company list, job titles that might be kind of interesting to you, and obviously open positions, because you could reverse engineer and engineer your kind of open position search in there. Also, is a progress bar. I made a little tiny easy progress bar for people, and we know what you're doing on a weekly basis. Is again, what you put in is what you get out, and it's different for every search. Some searches are way more niche, so you're not going to have a big volume, and you're going to be like a little bit more quality and kind of balancing that. Some roles, there's a ton of opportunities out there, so you got to just kind of really kind of build a pretty robust search. But at the end of the day, keeping a progress bar, keeping something for yourself, like, hey, I did this much activity this week, and doing a mix of things and a mix of channels and a mix of approach, is you're gonna be able to look back on that, and it's going to hopefully give you a little bit more energy going forward. So we can talk again, strategy implementation. I know it's like a 10,000 foot view right now. There's probably like, what is that? There's a lot in there into how you approach people and how you engage, and I'd be happy to talk offline about that as well, because that's a little bit of a skill and an art all on its own. So the last piece is impress. And I want to talk about, after we've got the, obviously the strategy we've implemented, you start getting interviews in and talking to people. And interviewing, again, I could spend another like 2 hours talking specifically about interviewing, but I want to cover what's really important right now in 2021, because things have changed. Obviously, we're not doing too much in-person interviewing. Maybe some places are, maybe there's a little bit of distancing involved, but bulk of it is kind of virtual interviewing. And I wanted to just go over some things to keep in mind, and maybe you already know this and research it, but maybe there's some new things you haven't learned as well. And I think it's just important to touch on that. And maybe if you want to talk later about kind of video interviewing, I love the topic itself. So video interviewing is notoriously difficult. It's so challenging for so many people because you don't have the normal elements of communication and proper breakdown. Maybe you've heard this, maybe you haven't, but most body language, actually most communication comes through body language, and it's actually nonverbal. So you can actually do really well in an interview just on your body language, your posture, your hands, your feet, your eyes, just how you convey yourself with your body. Because sometimes, people don't really listen to your words. Actually, words are usually the less, and tone is actually more important. The way you deliver the message is more important. So in person, we're able to use our body, but over Zoom, we're like, we're pixelated. We're coming through here, and we've got everything from lights to camera to audio. We've got so many different things to work around. So how do we actually do this? Well, first, obviously setting yourself up correctly with good audio. So on video interviewing, good audio is going to be critical, because having a crisp voice that sounds really well is just going to really kind of elevate you. So it might be worth investing in a microphone if you're going to be doing a lot of that and testing it out too. Good lighting is important. I don't know if anybody knows, but there's like this simple, really basic 3-point lighting setup. You want like a nice key light, maybe some backlight, and maybe a little bit of a fill light. And you can kind of play around with a little bit of a 3-point on there. Also, eye contact. Most people, when they're video interviewing, they don't stare into the camera. They stare at like the picture or whatever. So you want to be able to stare into the camera as much as possible. It's not an easy thing to do. A lot of people, I still am learning to do it. In fact, right now I'm, obviously talking into the camera. So I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with it, but it's not something we practice every day. And that will come across because when the reviewer is looking at you, it will look like you're looking at them. So have a little bit better of engagement there. Obviously, things like body language is really hard on video interviewing, like, standing up if it helps. I personally am a fan of standing up during interviewing, not waving your hands around too up in the air too much. Preening as well during video interviewing. Some people like flip their hair or maybe knock some lint off them. Those are all signs of I'm not paying attention. So understanding how you can have really good framing in interviewing, you're calm, you're relaxed, you're staring at the camera, really good tone, crisp audio. Those are things that can kind of set you up a little bit. The last piece is pacing on video interviewing. And most people, when they're video interviewing, they'll really kind of just talk for a really long time. They'll just sort of ramble. I get a lot of this. You want to try to, around a minute. You want to try to limit to about a minute of speaking. Around 30 seconds is really when people are listening to you. The next 30 seconds up to, a minute is when things kind of like die out. So, anything over a minute, they're just not listening. So you really want to try to practice your answers. So you're getting it in within a minute. And you also really want to practice more like active listening techniques. And some people really cringe when I say that. So I apologize to anybody out there. Active listening, again, is paraphrasing or restating what they just said. So it's a way to show engagement because, again, it's so hard to show engagement over the camera. How can you do that? Active listening is a great way by, paraphrasing. It sounds like you said X, Y, and Z, or just, restating the question, but just a little bit smaller. Again, it just shows that you're engaged with them a little bit. So other things that you can do to, again, show engagement is at the end of your answer, you can say, is there anything more specific you'd like to know about that? Getting them to be engaged on the video is really critical. It's going to really help kind of drive that forward. Just wanted to touch on that for video interviewing. And it's a difficult task. The last piece I forgot about is actually recording yourself. Try recording yourself, for a minute. I know it's a little hard, but just try recording yourself. And it's usually not most natural. And that's why I work with people one-on-one, and I'm asking them and then sometimes record and we kind of say, okay, well, how did you sound? So try recording yourself to see how you look and see how you sound. And it will give you a lot of feedback. So that's one tip as well. So again, launching your job search in 2021. I really appreciate you guys coming. The biggest thing I want to say is just don't give up. And a lot of people are frustrated out there. They're confused. They're not feeling confident about what they're doing. And it's really not you. There's a lot of pieces going on right now in the hiring system. And I just want to say, just when you think you couldn't go on anymore, that's the point when you really need to push a little bit harder. And the breakthrough is just around the corner. I get emails all the time from people I've worked with who say, they kept that mindset and they said, I kept my head down. I did what you suggested. I worked through it. It got really tough, but I just didn't give up. And then I found an opportunity for myself. And I know it's really easy for me to armchair quarterback, but in my own business, it's the same thing. Like, I work with a lot of people, and there's times where I'm like, oh my goodness, how am I going to help so many people? How am I actually going to really, everybody's got so many different needs. How am I going to be able to solve all this? I feel like I can't do it all. And it's moments like that that I turn around and say, you know what, this is one of those moments that if I just keep pushing through, I know it's going to get better. And it usually does. So I just wanted to share that as something as hopefully that you can keep in mind as you're going through this little bit of a struggle right now. And then that's me. Thank you. Just a quote, be bold and mighty forces will come to your aid. So I kind of like that. And that's me. That's Eric Morse, career coach, idealcareercoach.com. Love to connect with you on LinkedIn. I'm super active on there. I love the platform. So feel free to shoot me a message and that you were here, and love to touch base with you. So thank you.
Awesome, Eric. Thank you so much for that great presentation. So we have about 10 more minutes in which we can ask questions from the audience. So I'm going to shoot with the first one so we can get through a good amount. So the first question that we have is, how do you get a job in an industry you don't have experience in?
That's how to get a job. Wait, one more time.
Yeah, no worries. How do you get a job in an industry that you don't have experience in? So let's say you were going down one route, but now you want to
Ah,
go into a new space, or you
yes.
went to school for a particular reason, but now you want to get a job in an industry maybe not necessarily related to that major.
I love this question because it's near and dear because I've done it a few times. The best thing is to think about a diagonal move. Where can your skills fit into that industry? Like that is the number one thing. Like don't try to like change too many pieces at once. Like can your skills fit into that industry? And again, getting back to the presentation, if you're applying online, they're going to see that you don't have skills in the industry. Generating referrals for yourself. That is number one. Generating referrals where people can vouch for you, who say, you're really good at what you do. And then you're going to get in front of the right people. They're going to say, wow, this person's got great experience. They've got a good referral. Let's come in and interview them. It doesn't matter about that. The other thing you can be doing if you're super interested in that industry is start researching and again, creating collateral on it. I helped an individual who had a technology background and in finance, and we helped him transition to finance in biotech. So we did this, but he really took what I said to heart and like started creating YouTubes. He started actually made a Clubhouse channel on himself. And so there's a lot you can do if you just start creating that for yourself. But again, being a little bit passive, you're just applying online, yeah, it's probably going to be statistically very low of that happening. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I actually had a follow-up question on that. So currently, UCSC students get access to LinkedIn Learning for free
Okay.
until August, which is a great resource and a tool. So on LinkedIn Learning, there's like 10 million, or I'm not going to say millions, a lot of different courses that you can take. Does that build credibility in that space if you're applying for another job, or is it just better for more of an educational thing?
I would say more for an educational piece. Is it going to like get you the job because you did some LinkedIn Learning courses? I don't really know that well because I don't really know too much about LinkedIn Learning. I've used it a few times, but I don't know it's like greater application. So I don't think I'm like the best fit for that. But I think it's really good so you can start building collateral and building some sort of name for yourself. Any information is always good information, but the application of it I think is really important.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, so next question. So are cover letters still relevant? How do you recommend your resume cover letter stand out during the application process?
Yeah, awesome. So I just did this one today. So are they still relevant? Yes, they are. Is everybody going to read them? Probably not. The person that will read them, on average, statistically, I would say they would read them is like the hiring manager and the team above. Will it get to them? I don't know. You're applying online, the applicant tracking system. If you apply there, sometimes your cover letter doesn't get to the proper people, just the resume does. So again, getting back to the principle of 60 to 80% of jobs was filled through referrals. If you're able to get the cover letter and the resume to the proper person, most likely they'll read it. But people who are just behind the scenes, recruiters, they're typically not reading cover letters. If it's a small outfit, maybe this is a really small company. Maybe there's like 5 people and they have an applicant tracking system and they're screening all resumes, not a ton of volume. Sure, they have the time, but like super high volume places, they don't really have the time to read them. When I was recruiting, I like to read them because I just like reading things and I think it's interesting. I'm super curious about life. So, but it's kind of hard to say at that level. So.
Thank you. Okay, so
Oh,
next
just
question.
disclaimer. I think they're good. I still create them for people. I think it's just another piece of collateral. So I like it. I'm a fan.
Yeah, personally, when looking at applicants, definitely like the full package because really your resume has kind of everything that you can do, skills, but then that cover letter is almost like a story piece with it, so it kind of pairs well. So I definitely agree as well to keep them and make them an important process, a part of the process. So what is the situation like for international students? Are companies reluctant to hire such employees at the moment?
I don't really know the international student situation, so I can't really answer that one. I just don't know too much about it. Maybe somebody else can answer that.
Yeah, and we have an international career coach within our office at Career Success. His name is Yang Yang. So if you would like to talk to that career coach about the international experience, then we can definitely help you. You can also email me if you want to get in touch with them. Okay, so next question. Is it common for people who just graduated college to have a job related to their major or in line with some career they would like to ultimately pursue? And if one is considering grad school, if you don't have something that supports your ideals for grad school, does that hurt you? That's a lengthy question.
It's a lengthy question. There's a lot in there.
Let's
Applying to
start with
grad
the first
school,
part.
yeah, it's a common people who graduate from college to have a job related to their major in line with some career they would like to ultimately pursue. Just
Mhm.
graduated. I don't understand the context of that too much, but I think it it could be good. I don't know. Like it really depends. It depends on what the career is and what the job is. I don't think I've really answered that too well unless I know the specifics behind that. That's a very circumstantial question. Sorry. As far as applying to grad school, I don't typically do applying to grad school type work, but I do work with enough people who either graduate from grad school. I think it's a good idea to have something if you're applying to grad school within that wheelhouse of whatever you're going towards. It'll just make you a stronger application, but there could be more professionals that I can defer to on that one.
Thank you so much. So the next question here, can your resume format affect the applicant tracking system?
Yes, it can. Very good question. What I've noticed on average, if there's like tables or weird symbols on it, it can affect the scanning and it can affect the parsing. Again, these are not like super sophisticated like technology out there. So it's like really basic like parsing technology. And if there's like weird symbols, tables a lot, sometimes PDFs. So you think you're doing a good job by applying to PDFs. And because you don't want anybody, messing with your resume. The thing is, like a lot of the parsing and scanning technology, they actually have a hard time with PDFs. So I actually recommend you to send it in a Word document. So awesome question. Yeah, weird symbols, tables, like images too. Oh, and by the way, somebody asked a question, and I can't remember if it was here, but about putting your picture on their resume. So that's a big no-no here in the United States. So don't put the picture on your resume. Other countries have different rules around that, but here in the United States, don't put a picture on there. So
Awesome, thank you. All right, do you have any more specific advice for how to approach alumni to network or get a referral?
again, kind of depends on what you're approaching them for, like what job, what career. Yes, I would, if it was in my field, like let's say I'm, working in science or in sales, looking at their background and being curious about their background and how they made those jumps and those transitions is going to go a long way. It's like, hey, I'm really curious about how you made this transition. I saw this in your background, super interesting to me. I noticed you're a slug too. Would love to just kind of hear about your experience. And that's a simple like a way to get about it. Again, a little bit of flattery goes a long way. You can say, this is like, wow, this is amazing the work you've done. Like, do you have a few minutes? The other thing about LinkedIn, if you're reaching out to, I'll just say LinkedIn is less active as far as like communication. If you're used to like Facebook, like people are messaging all the time and the response rate is amazing there. But like LinkedIn's a little bit slower. It's a little bit more cumbersome. So keep that in mind if you're like reaching out to alumni and things. They may not like respond immediately. You make it like a message like a month later. So, but yeah, I would flatter them, super curious about their background, just, ask them for a few minutes of their time. And that's about it.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so I just graduated and I'm doing deliveries while job hunting. How can I use it to my advantage with future employers?
Like
Like
mail
what
delivery.
skills?
but the delivery, like food delivery. So there's a lot. I mean, I don't know what kind of delivery it is. We'd have to look a little bit in there because I don't know if it's like mail delivery, Amazon delivery. Like, what are you doing? Like, is it like operational kind of work you're doing in there? If there's any projects you're working on in there, I don't know kind of like the full context of it, but I'm sure there's a lot that you're doing. Like, what the thing that you should get out of it is there anything there that you like doing? Like, what in the delivery process do you like? Is it the communicating with the people? Are you doing anything operational there? Are you working with any software? Like, what do you really like? And that's how we can elevate that and maybe translate that over to some future employment.
Got it. Thank you. All right. So what advice can you give to people who are looking for jobs out of state?
Out of state is challenging. It's never really an easy answer there. A lot of employers are less likely to just, take a talent pool from another state when usually you have a lot of competing internal talent pool. The first thing is if you have an address over there and put your address on the city, state, and zip on there. That's one way to do it. The second way to do it is obviously networking. And that's going to be the easiest transition. If you can get over there and you can get in front of people, they're going to overlook that. So you got to network really hard, and you've got to really keep on top of it. Because again, you're competing with a lot of, I don't know, like California has a great, robust job market, various other states too. If you're going to a place that doesn't have that robust of a job market, you're going to be competing against other people. But again, establishing some roots over there. I know people I've helped facilitate, and that's kind of mentioned, who actually, like I said, he sent a video in. He sent a video into everybody. I showed that example. Maybe there's something of that capacity that you can do, that you can send to a future employer. Maybe send them a white paper. Maybe just show them that you're a little bit different of a candidate and maybe the best fit for it.
Awesome. Well, we have one last question, and then we'll conclude the program. So what's your advice or one last tip for streamlining your job search?
One last tip for streamlining your job search: organization, and organizing everything from your progress for every single day, the companies you're going after, your contacts, maybe various industries. What are the open roles? Having alerts going on so you know when to apply, if you're going to apply, or at least search for people you might be able to kind of network with. But having some sort of condensed feedback for you is going to be really important, because if you're not tracking any of this information, if you're not managing this process, the process is going to be managing you. So that's how you'll streamline it, is really condensing the information that works well for you. Maybe it's not in an Excel sheet, whatever it is that works well for you. Some people are Trello people that have Trello Post-its and are working in that. Whatever your project management tool is for yourself, you need to implement that, but you need to track it. And that's really important. And track your progress too. And however you're sort of quantifying that progress is really important. What is an activity for you on a day? Like measuring your activity so you can go back, okay, I did this amount of activity and I got these results at the end of the day. So
Awesome.
Hopefully that helps with the streamlining piece.
Yeah, I've definitely heard a lot of people use Excel just to keep track of everything. I like Asana, Trello, things like that. So that's great. Awesome. So we are going to transition and close. We're going to talk about a few resources that we have on campus that can support you as well. So we're just going to transition slides real quick. And I'll let Kara take it away about the Career Advice Network.
Thanks, Taylor. Hi, I work in alumni engagement at UC Santa Cruz, and we want to make sure that you know about the Career Advice Network, which is free online networking and mentoring. There's over 1,600 mentors, alumni who want to help banana slugs. You just create an account, you look for folks that you want to talk with, and it's on you to initiate a consultation. But this is just a sampling of the types of conversations you can have on there. Oops.
Awesome. And then, as you all know, Career Success is full of resources, and we're happy to help you. Everything that we do is through Handshake. where you can find job fairs, events and workshops, and then also schedule career coaching appointments. I've also linked a few things in the chat that can support you. And then the Career Success website has many resources to support you in your job search, as well as opportunity to use JobScan, which was mentioned earlier.
And then for alumni, we have an upcoming career design fellowship, which is a 30-day online peer-led program. You can sign up for right now. So if you're really looking, and seniors, you can do this too if you want to. If you want to spend a month really designing your career and exploring career paths, this is a great opportunity to do that. And it's really great for folks who are looking for a career change as well.
And lastly, we have a lot of upcoming events. So Slugs and Tech Panel is tomorrow. It's really to give advice on how to get jobs in technology and non-tech fields within the technology sector. We do resume cover letter labs. We have an entrepreneurship series that's going to be great. It starts April 2nd with an alumni. We do the How to Get Hired webinars, which essentially prepare you for the career fair, which we have our last spring job and internship fair on April 14th. And you can find these events on the Career Success web as well as Handshake, and I'll link that right now. Awesome. Well, is this the last slide, Clara? Cool. On behalf of UC Santa Cruz, I'd like to thank you all for joining this evening and just give a special shout out and thank you to Eric for sharing all his knowledge today. We did link his ideal career coach, and we'll do that again in the chat if you are interested in speaking with him further. And just don't forget to fill out the survey, and you can find this recording on the Career Success YouTube channel. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and thanks for tuning in.